we will go ahead and get started. Thank you all for arriving, and I know traffic has been particularly heavy as folks are returning to work. Oh, there's okay. So thank you all for joining us. Important final meeting after a very fun, a year and a half long process, which is great. So I'm excited to get everybody's final feedback in that. So let's make sure. Did you hit record? Okay, so we're good. Sorry, we're just making sure everybody can hear.
Can you hear us now? But then we all stop talking.
Yeah, exactly. The folks can still hear us. Yes. Okay, great. Kimmy and Keisha. Okay, perfect. So excellent. So as we look at the agenda, I actually have a very nice but important. I'd like to propose to change the agenda because we have a guest with us. So I'd like to amend the agenda that we add to the agenda after confirming it, having executive citations. We have a visitor from the county executive's office. So I'd like to add that, but keep everything else the same. So if that works. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Kevin, Marilee, second that. Everybody vote. Aye. No objectives. Yeah, hold on, and we'll get Keisha and Kimmy. Yes. Okay, great. Excellent. So with that, I would like to turn it over.
Kind of an honor, and I don't know where to stand.
No, it's okay. That's okay. The owl will
follow me. Okay. I know. Start walking in circles and let it follow me.
Exactly.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Kaylee Schultz. I am the Boards and Commissions Coordinator on behalf of the County Executive, as well as the Program Manager on behalf of the Deputy County Administrative Officer of Land Use. So I wear two hats with the county, and it is super fun. And this is kind of a nice blend for me to be in this element. So I am here on behalf of Stuart Pittman, the County Executive, and also Jansen Evelyn, our Deputy CAO. And I just wanted to take this moment to thank everybody that has served on the SAC really since you were appointed in November of 2021. I don't think you guys first met until December, but it has been a long and strenuous process. And we just want to thank everybody for their dedication, their time, their research, their outreach, everything that you all have done. You know, you guys were the rookies for this. This was our first round of SACs, and it was a learning experience for many staff people, and we just appreciate everything that you all have done, the hours, the time, and everything taking away from your families and other commitments that you have to really help implement what will be the future of Anne Arundel County. And we are excited for that. And so with that, the county executive did make a few citations that each of you will be given before the end of this evening. But I would like to go ahead and just read it aloud because I really think it encompasses, you know, the true thoughts and feelings from the county executive and our whole office. So with that, it is the residents of Anne Arundel County, Maryland, salute, and it will have each of your names. In recognition of your commitment to Anne Arundel County's Region 2 Stakeholder Advisory Committee planning process. As a member of the Stakeholder Advisory Committee for the region, you have selflessly volunteered your time and expertise to create a vision for a healthy, livable, and vibrant community. We are grateful for your input that will continue to shape our communities for years to come. We commend you for your excellent work and extend to you our most heartfelt appreciation. We extend our best wishes in all of your future endeavors. Thank you for helping to make Anne Arundel County the best place for all. Signed, Stuart Pittman, County Executive. So with that, I just wanted to take time and come out and say thank you. Apologies that neither Jansen or the county executive could be here, but once again, thank you again. And I look forward to seeing what will be going before the council after all the fun work has been put together into legislation.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Excellent. And also did speak and invite County Councilwoman Julie Hummer, as well as County Council Chairman Pete Smith. They both send their regrets, just various meetings, back to school nights and all of that. So I think everybody, I know I feel this way, that I feel triple booked many a time. So, but they just, once again, just wanted to thank everybody. They've been definitely keeping track of this process. We were doing the mapping. I know they were here and looking at us. So I mean, they've been very, very attuned to what we've been doing. And I'm really grateful for both of their leadership and making sure that this has been a successful process. Especially in regards to that they'll be teed up, but I feel like they're very tuned into what people have said and what the public has said. So that way we're really confident. So just wanted to speak on their behalf as well. So with that, I know we need to move forward to our next agenda item, which is approving the minutes for June 15th and July 13th. So first one is the June minutes. Does anybody have any questions, thoughts, revisions for those minutes? I don't, but doesn't mean others. No? All right, so is there a motion to approve those minutes? Motion from Mary Lee, second from Jim Kraft. We'll go ahead since we do have two online. Keisha and Kimmy, how would you like to vote? Keisha approves. Kimmy, let us know. Kimmy approves as well. All in the room, say aye.
I abstain.
Okay,
I wasn't there.
no nos, and Kevin abstains as he wasn't there. So, which is good. It's kind of hard to know what happened in the meeting. We haven't mastered.
I know what happened now.
Yeah, exactly. You know.
I was reading the notes.
Now you know, it's
Excellent.
pretty
So-
detailed.
It was, yeah.
The June meetings stand approved. So now we'll do the same process for the July minutes. Is there any questions, thoughts, concerns, edits, revisions? Is there a motion to approve those?
So moved.
Kevin will make that motion. Marilee will second. We'll go ahead and go back to Keisha and Kimmy. Looks like Keisha approves, yes. That was very fast, Keisha. Wow, lightning fingers, love it. And Kimmy. Okay, great. That, all in the room, vote yes.
Yeah.
Any abstentions? Nope, great. So those are approved. Yes.
I'd like to make I know I said this before, I'll say it again.
Yeah.
These notes are great.
Yes.
Okay. Kudos to the staff for coming up with these notes. The meeting that I missed, because I was 5 time zones away, I felt like I was there. So I'm fully up to speed, which is great.
Excellent.
We're very well done. Maybe they should come to our monthly meetings and do the minutes.
Yes, it is a skill. So yes, thank
Yeah.
you very, very much. They are valuable when you're able to look that. Excellent. So we decided to flip the agenda a little bit today, just so that we wouldn't be rushed at the end. Plus, we figured if the public had any comments that could directly impact our discussion. So we've allotted about 10 minutes. So if we could have each person stick to 2 minutes for their pieces. I don't know how many people are expecting to say some words, but I'm happy to recognize you in the back, but if you could please keep it timely to 2 minutes, I'll police it as best as I can. So I don't know if anybody from the public would like to make some remarks or has any questions or concern. Someone? What?
I just want to say
Yes.
one thing, I could not read the report online. They
Oh.
cut off the last quarter of the page. And then the top of the next page started 3/4 down.
Okay,
And the top quarter was blank, so there was no way I could read the report.
so that's when you were accessing it in PDF version or?
However, I was supposed to access it on the computer.
Okay,
I wasn't on my phone or anything, I was actually.
yeah,
on
no,
my
no, no,
computer. I could not read it. The report came up, I just couldn't read it.
yeah, there was some issue there, okay, I personally didn't have that issue, or else I would have raised it. So, yeah, I don't know if it was a PDF issue or a browser extension issue. Had we heard of anybody else?
There was one comment, I don't know if it was you, Ellen, that had made the comment though.
Okay, so maybe it was with a browser issue or something, because
David,
did anybody else have got an issue? Okay, well, yeah, so sometimes I know with browser extensions and that if you use Chrome versus Firefox or whatever, I use Firefox and it was fine on Firefox.
I also downloaded it onto my desktop and opened it that way.
Okay,
I never, yeah, opening it directly from the website is always so buggy.
yeah,
So,
before we move on, just, if anybody online would like to speak, you can use the raise hand function and we can promote you to speak or as a panelist.
okay, so we will go ahead and move on up to the next.
Somebody leaving.
Oh,
Okay.
Unless somebody just left. Keep
Oh,
going.
it's good. Sorry about that. There was just some more movement outside, so. Okay, so we will go ahead and move on to the next important piece, which is reviewing public comments and voting on key pieces. So I'll turn it over to Mark to help lead us through this next section, a very important section.
Okay, so if folks remember, let's just make sure that we're getting our way here. When we had the plan up for public comment, we had both the preliminary plan, which you could download as PDF and view it and make comments then on those items. And then we also had a draft zoning map, an interactive tool where you could then leave comments on specific properties, where there was a new zoning change from the initial zoning, the draft zoning that folks commented on several months ago. There were also then 2 other survey monkeys where you could leave comments for any property within Region 2, not just the ones where there was a change based on the previous draft. So we'll go through all those comments as well as then one additional one and any other comments that staff had picked up while this was out for public review. So general comments about the preliminary draft, and again, you all had received both the raw comments as well as then a summary. Jim had reached out and let us know that there was one error on that summary, so we will update that and that we will republish that up on the hub site. Okay. So general concerns about development, folks were expressed concern about developers not following county requirements. That when you have overdevelopment, there are adverse impacts to the environment. When you have, again, too much development, there's traffic congestion on the roads, and just generally a need for more green spaces within Region 2. There was one comment that talked about maybe the need for more zoning districts that really zero in on the specific type of development that we want in a certain area. I think you all expressed that, and that's reflected in the plan where we talk about the various mixed use zoning districts. When the county updates those. There was another suggestion, and this one came in through when we held office hours at Maryland City Library. So again, not only did we have an online tool, but individuals from the public could email us, call us. And like I said, we had one day where we actually in person here in the region at the Maryland City Library from 11 o'clock until 6 o'clock for anybody that wanted to come in and physically see us. So this one came in through that path, and it was just a suggestion that the county support HOAs and residents when stormwater ponds are on their property. And again, just generally the need for more bicycle and pedestrian facilities. And again, I think you all have addressed these in your conversations. So before I move on, we'll have a vote at the end, but since I'm going to move on to the zoning and development policy areas and plan land use, does anybody have any comments on the preliminary draft, the actual plan? I'm going to check with Emmy or Keisha, do you have any additional comments on the preliminary draft plan? Okay, we can come back to it if we need to. Okay, so one of the comments that we received through the online mapping tool was the property owner of this yellow outline property along Brockbridge Road. And the existing zoning in the top left-hand corner is C1. Through our discussions here, it's recommended to be R10. Plan 2040, pulling up that reference document here, there was an amendment to change this to medium density residential. And that would indicate, or to be consistent, an R10 zoning district. There is a townhome development that's been approved that sort of circles that yellow parcel.
That's under construction as well.
Is it, it's under construction now? Yep, so
That's the affordable housing.
it is, yes.
Yeah.
So everything in pink's under construction now, or just part of it?
No, the pink part that's minus the yellow rectangle.
Right.
But
So
under the
here's the
existing
yellow square that property owner had left a comment saying, I'd like to leave it as C1. And again, I've provided, I could blow up some of these materials if you like. But just to sort of give you an indication that this is a landlocked property. And so again, taking the cue from Plan 2040, that the planned land use is medium density residential, and R10 is consistent. You all have made that decision. We would agree to keep it as R10. And so again, just want to put that on the floor if there's any discussion to revert it back to C1.
Why they want it?
Consistent.
Why do they?
That's what I was gonna
Yes.
ask.
They didn't express why they'd like to keep it as C1.
It'd just be very inconsistent. It's almost like a reverse spot. Right, it's just making sense to me.
Although across the street, it is C1,
C2.
C2.
It's not even adjacent, right?
Right,
So again, it doesn't have that road frontage
right.
as well.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, that's weird.
Is
commercial.
there an
without-
existing use on it that the owner's worried about?
Mhm.
You received no other detail or insight?
No.
It seems that.
Yeah.
So-
It's in reverse.
I'll let you,
So is-
extent that there's consensus to keep it as R10.
It seems like R10 is more valuable than C1 anyway, right?
To me, it seems like C1 would be useless back there.
Right.
Said differently.
Yeah. And did they leave access?
There is, yeah, so the hatched area on the right-hand side is that access easement.
Okay,
Are they different property owners?
Yes.
definitely.
Yeah.
I think they would have been included. Yeah,
So the gentleman in the yellow box wants to keep his property a certain way, other than the rest of the box.
Mhm.
So is there a motion to change the property, and if not, then we can move on?
I'm gonna change it from
No, I'm saying, is-
R10.
correct, is there a motion? If there's not, then we'll just move on.
Move on.
Yeah, I hate to tell.
There's no no motion, so we will move on.
Okay, this is up on Dorsey Road in that northwest corner of Region 2. We had talked about it as being, well, you can see on the map, it's a very industrialized, high intensity type of commercial uses. We talked about it in the sense that it's in close proximity to the Dorsey station in Howard County. And so this property owner, it's now changed hands twice since the property owner, back when we were doing Plan 2040, requested it to be W1 industrial. The property owner now wants it to stay as currently C3. So
But-
clearly,
But
again,
non-arm's length means that there was some association. Because if it's an arm's length transfer, there's no connection whatsoever if it's non-arm's length. So they may have like reconstituted the LLC. I would say it's changed hands once, like formally. Based on what I'm seeing up there.
And what does that mean? The arm's length thing?
It just
that there's
means, it really
associated-
hasn't changed twice. It's really changed
Oh.
once and there's been something.
Because like if you're my daughter and I die and I've left the property to you, well, it shows as a non-arm's length transfer because we're related. And so there's some relation in there with what they did with that 2020 transfer.
Okay, but we changed it to W1 on their request, and now they're requesting to go back to C3.
So a previous owner's request during Plan 2040.
Right,
Oh, not during our SAC, that was.
Correct.
Yeah,
yeah.
Okay.
Which
What
happened.
is surrounding it? Isn't it all surrounded by W1?
Yeah, so I can,
Do you have an
yeah, but
area?
it's got C3 right there.
yeah, so let me pull up,
Just pull back a little bit.
Well, that T shape is still C3, right?
Is there something that exists there? In the C3 Phil Road?
There it is. In order to get to the road from that parcel, you have to go through the C3.
well, it does have frontage on Dorset.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Well, so
At
that's,
some point, it looks like maybe they
That's
were owned by the
something.
same individual, I don't know. But again, I'm just.
so
gonna
it's
zoom
really
out
not
there.
T-shaped. The cross on the T is actually the road.
It's an L, yeah.
Yeah, so it's this
That-
property here.
No, I'm
Sorry, I
saying
should have
the
outlined.
C3,
Oh, that's in the road.
Oh.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh, understood, sure.
Some
And that's an
of that-
issue that our GIS department is currently cleaning up some of these right of way zoning
Right.
issues. But again, here zoomed out, again, this was the train station. A lot of this in this area is that sort of heavy commercial contractors' yards, industrial, I think some W2. Again, this is the parcel here,
And immediately to the left, that's W1 as well.
like both the zoning.
that's the other county, right? Isn't that across the railroad tracks?
Preliminary draft zoning.
Oh, that's still in, right? Okay, railroad tracks are really.
Who is that C4?
So C4, correct.
Yeah.
Wait,
So C4 over here, and this is this lighter purple is that W1,
but the red is also C4.
C3,
C3, got it. And we're requesting C3.
right.
But there's nothing on that C3.
I think it's still, it's
Right,
right.
it's.
Hmm.
But if we change this to C3, then it's a more substantial.
But then it becomes
block of
contiguous
C3.
commercially zoned property rather than the standalone.
Right, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They use big language, yeah.
I say it's commercial next to commercial rather than
Yeah. I understand.
an island of.
In the commercial, C4 would allow obviously commercial uses and some residential.
Well, there's probably more
But to the-
similar uses across commercially zoned properties than it was just W1, right?
Right.
So he's, the individual is asking for C3.
Right. So you can do townhomes, C1 and C3, but
So
So
you do townhomes with C4?
no.
Okay. It's fine, yeah, change it to C3.
so you want to take a vote?
So is there a motion to change this property to, or to stay at C3? Right, correct, or wait,
No, change it.
change, okay.
Yeah, change the proposed zoning. What is it right now, as we speak?
It's the preliminary draft.
No, what is the property right now zoned?
Oh, it's currently C3.
Right,
So it's keeping it C3.
Keeping it
But we recommended,
Right.
yeah, changing our recommendation
correct.
away from changing it.
You should say recommend this property stay.
Stay at
C3.
So is there a recommendation that this property stays C3?
I'll make that motion.
Kevin makes that motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
So with that, we have a motion on the floor. Any debates on this? Any other discussion before we have a vote?
I would use those big words again.
Okay, no, just making sure before, because it is more complicated than an agenda, so I didn't wanna hinder any debate. Okay.
I'm trying to figure out if we we justified industrial zoning there because the request was for industrial zoning. Now they're like, forget it, I want to stay C3, you know, so we were swayed in all likelihood. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah.
Sounds like it.
Oh, absolutely.
Because of the request.
That's my
Yes.
question.
Now they're trying to pull the request. And had they not requested, we would have left it at C3.
Absolutely.
Probably, yeah.
Okay. So Kimmy and Keisha, do you vote yes or no?
So that was Keisha
Keisha approved that.
voting, yeah.
Kevin's a motion.
Yep.
Kimmy. Okay, yes. So in the room, all in favor? Okay, none opposed. So the motion carries. Thank you, Kevin.
Okay. So now moving on to public comments. There were a few comments expressing concern about mixed-use zoning adjacent to the Patuxent Research Refuge. So up in the upper left-hand corner, just wanted to illustrate site plans or subdivision plans that have been submitted and maybe at different review phases or approval. Just to sort of indicate that there are folks that have now moved forward and shown an interest in developing that property, given the current zoning. And then on the bottom left-hand corner is the existing zoning and the proposed zoning on the right-hand side, which really for the most part just cleans up that OS zone. So remember, we had talked about how that antiquated FEMA floodplain was mapped on those the previous zoning maps. We're just now applying it to those dedicated floodplain parcels, as well as some other properties as well. But that's the main difference here from the existing to the proposed. So again, OPZ's recommendation is to keep the zoning as proposed going forward.
It looks like we gained some green space there. Yeah. Yeah.
So again, the motion would be whether you want to suggest a change. Otherwise, like the first one, if there is none, we can move on.
Yeah. So is there any motion for the committee to consider?
We've already considered
No.
those parcels.
Correct. Okay,
Pretty
so,
deeply.
okay.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, so,
And I'm not seeing anything from Keisha or County.
okay.
Okay, also, oops, let me just catch this real quick. No changes. Okay.
Thank you, Keisha.
Then at the northwest intersection of Brockbridge Road and Whiskey Bottom, there were these parcels that were originally zoned R1. And throughout our discussions, we talked about, say, either R10 or R15. And again, this is just north of the Laurel Racetrack. And some of the discussion at that point was R15 sort of creates this transition from what Laurel Park could be in the future, some high density entertainment type of complex, to then passing through R15 to then R10 to the north and east side of this area. So again, there was public concern about this getting upzoned to R15. OPZ, after some consideration, we'd recommend this go back to R10. Again, still an upzone from the current zoning.
Do we see the context again?
Yep.
What's OPC's reason for going back?
Sewer capacity.
There's none, or what are you saying, sewer capacity?
Yeah, it's kind of what I'm wondering too. So this is a service area that can't be expanded. It's already been upgraded as much as possible. And the, based on the existing zone that is in place.
Even when you consider more environmentally friendly, low flow toilets, things, all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's
Does
the,
that include potential upgrades by anyone doing improvements in that road?
I'm not sure.
This is current zoning. Okay,
right,
so R1, these are those properties. Again, we're gonna clean up the lines here a little bit. And so then I can put on the proposed. And disregard this purple, that's again, one of those right of way issues that we're.
Okay, I was gonna ask.
Yeah,
What is
again, it's
that?
a right of way, so, it's.
What will right of ways be?
We're taking the zoning to the center line.
Oh, okay, so each will go, gotcha.
yeah,
So what happens if we leave it R15, sketch plan comes in for a density that justifies R15, but you don't have the sewer capacity, it just means it won't be approved unless that sewer capacity is opened up
Or provided by the developer?
or provided by the developer? That's all it needs, right?
You're not gonna get approval.
You won't get approval, but the developer going in would know that, they check in their due diligence, they check the roads, the sewage capacity, all that kind of stuff. Maybe they'd say, we'll only develop to R10 capacity, because that's all that's there, that's all that's possible.
see, I would change it to R10. Just because of consistency and adjacency. It seems almost as if, you know, we're giving these guys a sweetheart deal for some reason. You
Well,
know,
part of it was, if I remember, this was a while ago, was it's sort of transit oriented, it's next to Laurel Park, so that
Right.
it was sort of a density, you know, build out kind of.
Right,
thing when
it
we
gets
did it. We
less
didn't
dense
just
as
do
you
it-
go away.
Right,
Right,
Yeah, the idea was if we can get improvements to the Laurel Park Mark train station, could you build, you know, a complex there, then people could then.
use
walkable
the,
trains.
right,
the train.
use the
Oh,
train.
that's a
Yeah,
transition.
the stations
Yeah.
right there.
So-
Yeah,
As
That
the
was
crow
why we
flies.
did it.
That was our reasoning
Mhm.
for
Like
for
how-
having higher density was then you could have
Yeah.
more people.
And I think it also offered a variety of different housing types to go to that
Yeah.
higher density.
Right, that's right.
Kevin, that might have been the meeting you missed, I think we talked about it in minutes.
I missed a lot. I'm sorry.
You did miss a couple, I thought you weren't
Yeah.
coming back.
so other than the sewer,
Well,
the sewer is the main reason P and Z.
so we haven't gotten our full report back from Public Works on looking at all the zoning changes that we're
Yeah.
recommending and the effect on that, but it's one of the things we said we would do during Plan 2040, it was actually a comment we got back from Maryland Department of Planning on our water resources plan. We're supposed to, you know, keep that in check as well. So that's part of it. If we're, you know, we have to watch our TMD elements. So that's-
Does that assume maximum zoning? Or maximum yield on that zoning,
Yes, well, when they're running their.
when they run their
max-
calculations of
Yeah.
capacity?
Except if it's developed out and they're using probably the combination of the other.
So there's a chance that if it's R15 zone and it develops at R10, you're ultimately getting the same flows.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem with the sewer. They use zoning and they don't use reality, so I mean. No, I'm serious, we've designed sewer pump stations and we'll take a whole piece of land that go into it and we have to do it based on total zoning and total build out and it never happens.
Mhm.
You know, with forest con and open space and all the other things. So I don't know, I mean, probably need a little report.
But again, there can be two recommendations, one from OPZ, one from the
Oh.
SA, or from the SAC. And they just get presented to council and the PAB.
And then they decide. Oh,
So,
My feeling is if we were gonna have, we voted to put the R15 there, because we want it there. sewer's a problem. Let the developer, the home builder, get over that issue, or he or she's got to develop over 10.
Yeah.
So do you need a motion?
It's as proposed.
As proposed, R
From that,
fifteen.
they say, yeah.
So we don't need a motion if we're gonna keep it at R 15. So someone would need to make a motion to downgrade it to R 10. Is there a motion? to Do that. Okay, no problem.
Is there any plan on expanding Rockbridge Road there? This is just a little 2-lane road.
Not that I've heard.
Expanding it how? I mean, the development's expanded.
Yeah,
As
they
they go.
widen the shoulders and
Yeah.
everything.
Is
So
that-
that,
They have to build that in too.
Yeah.
yeah, that's part of the deal.
And so you go out
Yeah,
there, you'll
because-
see parts of
Yeah,
it.
right now you drive along, it's a little 2-lane road, it gets wider.
Right,
And
where
that
the
is where the townhouse has been put in, and it gets narrow again.
Yeah, so you
So,
can see
yeah.
when it sort of cuts in,
Yep.
that's the frontage improvement for dedication. Right, so there it ends, and you
Yeah.
can see the notch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Keep it as,
So if there's no motion, we will move forward and keep it as is.
and I don't see anything from Keisha or County. Okay, and then this was, sorry, let me just ground this, no changes. Okay, great. So again, this was discussed at our March meeting, and it's in the March meeting notes. The edit never happened to illustrate that the development, that the SAC recommended a critical economic development policy area for this area that's in the yellow. And if you can imagine, it just kind of ends there.
That's at the Jessup train station.
Correct, at the Jessup Mark Station, with a transit-oriented development policy area overlay. Okay. So no change recommended, just wanted to go on record here that, again, this was omitted from the preliminary draft, but again, it was in those March meeting notes. Okay.
Didn't notice it was omitted.
Yeah. Okay,
So what you're saying, what will happen
so,
is that's gonna be mixed
It's
use
not-
with that overlay.
yeah, so this peach color is a neighborhood preservation development policy area. And I'm, again, illustrating that you all, had, recommended that this, diagonal lined area be mixed use. And again, to apply a critical economic development policy area, as well as a transit-oriented overlay. To again, help inform future decisions to implement some type of mixed use in that area.
And hopefully make better use of the Mark station there.
Right. Okay. Okay, so Marilee, I know you've been at the edge of your seat. I don't know, since March, right?
2 years.
Well, here's the grand reveal, right? And so after some discussion, and like I said, we needed to discuss with a couple other teams, specifically Region 4, who's applying the same type of designation, so that we're consistent amongst these region plans. So we have a commercial revitalization area along Maryland 198. The development policy area there is critical corridor, which is not a targeted growth development policy area. So we have this sort of conflict where we're saying commercial revitalization, where you can do many more uses than what may be permitted in the underlying zoning, and a greater density than, again, what's in the underlying zoning. So really saying this is a targeted growth area, but we've got, again, this mismatch where we're saying critical corridor is not a targeted growth area. Okay, so to clarify that, we're proposing creating a new development policy area overlay called the corridor revitalization and redevelopment overlay. And that then is, if I have the development policy area mapped up from Plan 2040, we sort of have this line of what's not targeted growth area, revitalization and redevelopment. And then we have this section underneath that has the designations that are targeted growth. So this corridor revitalization and redevelopment overlay would be treated as a targeted growth area. It only applies for to these areas where there is that commercial revitalization area. So not all critical corridors are going to be this new corridor revitalization redevelopment overlay. Only those critical corridors where there is commercial revitalization area.
And it's the hatch.
So it's, yeah, so the hatched unfortunately is what the current commercial revitalization area is. You can see that it's
Oh.
kind of split. I don't want to say split zones, but
Yeah.
it splits some
Properties.
parcels, properties, right? And it doesn't currently align. So if it does touch it, we are going to assume it to be within the new corridor revitalization and redevelopment.
So you would extend the hatch down to the back of the property?
Correct. For example, these two properties,
Mhm.
as an example. Yeah,
So effectively, the hatched area is expanding into the light purple area.
yes, correct, in this area, yeah.
But not everywhere, Mark.
Just where there's,
Just
Partial.
where, yeah, where there's an indication that, again, we believe that if there is, let me see, because I think it might actually line up with certain areas. And maybe it is just these two. But if there's a sliver, we're gonna assume that it's not within that that corridor revitalization and redevelopment area. It's just when there's this sort of significant section.
so the pieces that are light purple sort of between the hatched up on the road?
Up here,
Yeah, to the right that aren't hatched
oh, that's,
down. No, yep, right there.
so this is this is multifamily housing here, I believe.
Okay,
And so, again, it appears that it's not intentionally within the commercial revitalization area.
okay. And then.
So we
other-
would not apply this overlay to that property.
Gotcha.
And where your cursor is now.
And neither would any of this, correct?
I mean, they're not commercial,
And residential.
they're all residential.
I think
So-
Kenny, doesn't Kenny live in the triangle? Somebody lives in the triangle, because we talked about the triangle at the first zoning meeting. Yeah,
This
I mean,
one
the
here?
triangle that's,
Oh,
yeah,
down there.
It's a set of townhomes.
yeah.
Okay,
And
so,
then,
so the light purple is critical economic, but not
Targeted growth.
targeted.
It's not a targeted growth development policy area by definition. And that's why we need to apply this overlay. Because a commercial revitalization area allows for a greater amount of uses than a typical underlying zoning, as well as increased density. So we're sort of saying, we want growth to occur in this hatched area, but critical corridor does not encourage growth. So that's why we have this mismatch. And that's what this new overlay will accomplish, is making them consistent.
And are we putting this elsewhere in the region too?
This is the only commercial revitalization area within Region 2,
But it's gonna go in the other regions.
Region 4.
Yeah, but I mean, you're changing, you're creating this new overlay, that's what I was wondering, if that will go, like along 175 where the commercial and that is, no?
Yeah, it's only for the, this is an actual overlay zone
Mhm.
in the code, in Article 18. And these are designated areas. How many are there in the county? Do you all? 8?
Less than 20,
Yeah,
and they're very linear, because they're all along corridors.
Mhm.
But it's areas where you want to promote redevelopment because maybe they are underutilized. Maybe what you might call, some of these areas could be more run down. There hasn't been enough property maintenance, so it's trying to bring together programs and, zoning that's gonna help them redevelop.
so I think just so we're all on the same page, maybe have a motion to.
So the motion would be to add a new corridor revitalization and redevelopment overlay
Yeah,
in this targeted area. Meredith makes the motion. Thomas seconds.
It's your baby. You didn't make that.
I know.
And Keisha approved, she is on it.
All right.
And then Kenny approves.
Okay, everybody else
Yep.
in the room, approve? Everybody votes yes.
Okay, great. Okay. Now for Act 2 of new development policy area overlays. So we had another type of similar situation where we have mixed use zoning districts or mixed use, apparently I see you getting excited.
I am, I'm so excited.
Mixed use zoning districts or a planned land use, that's also mixed use designation, which are, again, what we intend as growth areas, target growth areas. But some of these are in development policy areas, or neighborhood preservation development policy areas, which again is a not target growth area. So again, to address that and bring it into consistency, we're recommending creating a new development policy area overlay called mixed use. And again, it only applies to these mixed use zoned areas or where there's a planned land use designation of mixed use, where we would apply then this new mixed use overlay. And again, it would then fall below that line and be considered as a targeted growth area. So I brought up the 4 areas where it would apply to the zoning to be consistent, and then the 1 area in Jessup where it's the land use is proposed to be mixed use. So we have then east of the BW Parkway, south of 198, we have the Parkside development south of 175. National Business, actually it's National Business Park is already in the critical economic, which is a targeted growth. So this is really only applying to this yellow outlined area here that I'm showing with my cursor, because this is a residential area and that's a neighborhood preservation development policy area currently, but the zoning is mixed use. Okay. And then over here, again, just east of 295, north of 175, there's another mixed use zoned area that is in the neighborhood preservation development policy area. And again, lastly, while the zoning hasn't changed along Maryland 175 in Jessup, the planned land use is mixed use. So in each one of these 5 areas is where this new mixed use development policy area overlay would be applied. And it would then be considered a targeted growth area, targeted growth, redevelopment, and revitalization.
So you're targeting growth along 175 in Jessup, did I hear?
That's the vision. Nothing's gonna happen. This area is not proposed to be rezoned. But again, the vision is, like we mentioned in the plan, we have a series of a few pages where we talk about how we would like the zoning, the mixed use zoning districts changed and applied specifically to different areas within Region 2, because mixed use along Maryland 175 in Jessup looks a lot different from the mixed use that would happen at Laurel Park, for example.
Oh, what is Laurel Park?
The zoning,
The development overlay,
it's critical economic.
economic,
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
that's right, that,
but to address the top right plan is, the area that during our map session that I pointed out is this weird jumble of, really intensive uses with, almost industrial looking uses and individual new homes being built. And it's all R1. And I was, I was asked, how do you want to change it? And I don't know. And so we're finally nailing it down. Is that what I'm saying? This is our proposal.
This is really just applying to the development policy area.
Okay.
We do provide a little bit of detail capturing the conversations that we had for Jessup March 16th. Identifying sort of the scale and intensity of these potential new mixed use zoning districts.
so what the Region 2 plan is going to have is it's gonna keep the zoning as is, it's gonna change the development overlay, but the land use is gonna be mixed use.
The
Is that
plan,
right?
correct, the plan land use is gonna be mixed use.
Okay, and then the zoning does not change.
That way, when the zoning is fixed, is that, I think I asked this before, will then it automatically be rezoned? Or do property owners have to go?
It can't be automatically rezoned, because there's only two ways to rezone in the county per the code. Comprehensive and piecemeal.
Okay. So once the zoning gets changed, somebody would have to come in and do a piecemeal rezoning. Or wait for the next comment.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Whether piecemeal would be allowed since the land use is already called mixed use. Already.
Yeah, so that would be helpful for piecemeal rezoning.
That's why we provided
Is that
those descriptions within the plan detailing sort of your recommendation, your vision of what this area could be, should be. Yeah. So I think
Are roads factored into that? Cause I'm thinking once, Jessup 175, other side of 295.
mhm,
So most of 175 has been expanded at least up to 295, but then it shrinks back down, so. Targeted growth, does that factor in potential expansion of the roads, or is that outside the scope of this plan?
this then helps influence and inform any future capital projects, and again, Maryland 175 being a state road, so. And I think going to Thomas's point too is. When any property is then developed, there would be any necessary frontage or mitigation improvements.
So is there a motion to create a new mixed use targeted growth? I believe Marilee. Motion from Marilee. There's a second from Joe. Any other debate?
As long as it's not just gas stations, it's counting as development.
Yeah.
Because that's all I've seen, especially that 175.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, there's so many other things. Yeah, like there's literally a row of farms, like not even 2 minutes down the street, another one. So as long as it's mixed planning is developing other businesses and stuff, other than just gas stations. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, Keisha, did they vote?
yep, so Keisha and Kemi, when you're ready. Keisha, 713 is
Okay,
approved,
Keisha's approved.
and wait for Kemi. There you go.
All right, so we have two. Everybody in the room?
And Marilee.
Yeah, Marilee, yep.
All right,
Yes, okay.
I think I should have seen.
Okay, and Thomas will abstain.
okay.
I do wanna thank you.
Sure.
I know I bugged you about that the whole time.
Surrounded by those.
Okay, moving on then. Okay, and then here's the text that's gonna be added to the plan describing these, because again, we just need some context for these new development policy area overlays. So again, just really what I said in too many words, here it's a little more simplified and where we actually then apply them. So again, just apply to those areas designated as commercial revitalization areas for that section of the code. And then same with mixed use, only for those existing or planned land, mixed use areas in a non-targeted growth development policy area. So that way it can be applied then for future regions during the next rounds.
Oh, so it's an overlay, you're not changing the policy area?
Correct, it's an overlay.
So the policy area is still gonna be preservation under it?
Mhm. But it's now a targeted growth area. Because say for Arundel Preserve, it's mostly built out. There's some sections that are still need to be built, but we do see that as sort of a stable residential area.
Could there be any note on other neighborhood preservation areas that are not developed. Maybe not necessarily be considered targeted growth, but there is a little bit of conflict with the description of neighborhood preservation, and some projects are active or might be getting redeveloped or are getting rezoned. And if they have a neighborhood preservation overlay, is there any conflict with that from y'all's perspective?
So are you talking about any specific zoning districts or just any development? in
Yeah, any
general?
development that, I think the original policy area map had a fair amount of neighborhood preservation on it. And not all of it was built out. So I guess more simply, is there any reason to put a note or a comment in the plan that simply states that there are some areas that are planned for growth and redevelopment that happen to be located in neighborhood preservation? It's not necessarily conflict, it was intended to be that way. Because I think just reading the description of neighborhood preservation, one would deduce it's really not intended for growth and development, but there are some areas in region 2 where there are two concepts. Well,
I'm gonna bring up Plan 2040 just so that we can see all the development policy areas.
I agree, because Arundel Reserve is a perfect example.
and there's still pockets that aren't developed.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I've actually seen, not necessarily in region 2, but I've seen some other areas where like the piece of land zone W1 next to the highway, and it was in preservation.
Neighborhood preservation.
Yeah.
But
I think
that's
that
what
happens.
I think it describes, that it's existing, they includes commercial, we think about. I mean, all of our neighborhoods that are Spur Park, I mean, it's got commercial. You know, residential mix, but it's not where we're targeting the majority of our future growth.
Right, but like this piece I'm talking about was that intersection of 97 and Dorsey Road. I mean, it wasn't like back in a neighborhood or a community.
Okay, I mean, there could be, there could be a mistake.
Yeah,
maybe
that's
it's
what it seemed
part
like.
of. I know there was one. There's been, we found a couple as we're going through. just
Right,
because it
right,
was- Now we're looking at it at a parcel level versus when it was mapped by the CAC, without benefit.
Right.
So again, I'll read off neighborhood preservation since it is kind of small here on the screen. Existing residential communities and natural areas, and it may include local, commercial, and industrial uses that are not intended for substantial growth or land use change, but may have specific areas targeted for revitalization. Development is limited to infill, the addition of accessory dwelling units, and redevelopment that must be compatible with the existing neighborhood character. Public infrastructure exists, but may need capacity improvements.
But if it's a raw piece of land and your development's restricted to infill, that doesn't promote growth there at all.
I mean, you don't have any specific examples?
I think if you zoom in on 198 corridor east of the map that you just had.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get my Zoom feature here.
I know, I have the hardest time making those maps big on my screen.
Okay.
So for example, we looked at earlier an area that's zone mixed use. Has several applications in the queue
Right here.
and it has future. And it's mixed use, but it's shown as neighborhood preservation. I mean, that's just one example.
And you're saying it's because looking at these properties here, okay, right. Is this the area that you're speaking of, right? So this is mixed use.
Right.
And so if it's in the neighborhood preservation development policy area, that would receive the mixed use overlay and be designated as a targeted growth area.
Says targeted growth and neighborhood preservation.
But if it
Right.
wasn't
does
mixed
seem like-
use,
It's, yeah.
if it wasn't mixed use, then it wouldn't get the overlay.
Right.
It would just.
Yeah.
There's, I'd have to look at the mapping, but I think there's properties even outside mixed use that
Okay.
were labeled.
Yeah,
neighborhood
that was
res-
the,
Well, that, I thought,
And it could be that broad brush that just captured some properties that.
We can look
sorry for
into
the
it.
derail, I was just.
Yeah. Okay, so. I was gonna go into the next steps. Those were all, again, the public comments. And again, the public comments were received through the online tool, phone, email, in person. And, like I said, some of these were then when staff had an opportunity to review the plan again and identify anything else that needed to change.
So
So
there was one on this list about split zone, C4 and MXTR. Did we address that one?
So that was a property, on the, just outside of Parkside, I believe, BW, to the east of the BW Parkway. And that was just one of those consistency errors where
Oh,
it's a commercial plan land use, but the property was still split zone between C4 and MXD. It was just something that never got updated, when we were doing that consistency analysis and those edits. So, again, because that was a consistency change, and it seemed pretty straightforward to us, I didn't
Right.
think it needed to necessarily be discussed here. Okay, so again, we're done reviewing the comments. I think at this point, it's up to you all to vote on both then the region plan itself, because there are gonna be two bills that go into council. There's gonna be a bill to adopt the region plan and one to adopt the zoning map. So I think to sort of close us out, have two votes, just one to support a region plan and one to support the zoning map.
So is there a motion to support the region plan? As proposed?
I could make that.
Kevin will make that motion.
It's scary. It's a big one.
I did, big one.
I know.
Is there a second?
Somebody else.
Yeah. I was trying to do that
Yeah,
too.
exactly. Any other comment, thoughts? We'll go to Keisha and Kimmy for your votes. Keisha supports the region plan.
I'm gonna see how they vote.
All the work we've done.
Kimmy agrees with Mike. So all in favor of the region plan?
I,
1, 2, 3. Okay, perfect. No no's, any abstentions? No. Region plan is nice. Congratulations, everybody. We are halfway to work.
Yeah.
So then we also now need to approve the region map as
The zoning map.
the zoning map as we proposed. So is there a motion to approve the zoning map? Thomas makes that motion. Is there a second? Great. And Keisha supports the zoning map. Amy, if you were able to say your support for the map? Okay, great. All those in favor in the room for the zoning map? All right, no abstentions and no objections. So moved, all but passed.
Great. Congratulations.
A lot of work.
Okay, so then, let me jump to our next steps here. Is the Planning Advisory Board, October 18th at 6 p.m. We'll be meeting here in Region 2. Typically, the meetings are in Annapolis. We felt this was a good opportunity to meet here in Region 2 and and hopefully facilitate more turnout by the public to provide any testimony then on the plan and the zoning map. So at that meeting on the 18th, OPZ will provide an overview of the plan. We'll go through all the opportunities for public comment, how we arrived at this, go through some of the major highlights of the plan. And then the planning advisory board will open it up for public comment on the master plan, and then, or on the rigid plan, and then they'll have some additional questions and comments, and then they'll open up the written testimony record. Usually lasts for about a week and a half or so. And then we reconvene in a few weeks, and OPZ presents a summary of those public comments, and then the PAB deliberates and votes. Then, based on, assuming we'll have edits to make based on the PAB's recommendation, we plan on introducing this to county council in January. And again, like I said, there are going to be 2 bills. And then, when we get to public hearings and amendments, that would occur in February.
So Mark, are you gonna send out, regular marketing for the public meeting that we can share and?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, I would remind friends, family, colleagues, let them know to sign up for these updates or forward your email. Same goes for members of the public, please. Share this information, so we have a good opportunity to hear from everybody at these PAB meetings and then ultimately county council. And then I did hear some comments or questions about, well, when does all this actually become effective? So we have council in January 2024. Depending upon when they adopt it, then it would be 45 days after it's ultimately adopted. And again, I put in there that a bill would die 95 days after introduction. So they do have to get it done within a certain time frame.
Can you share this slide with the group, or did you have it already?
I'm sorry.
Can you share that slide and time frame with the group? Unless I missed it, did you?
I just took a picture of it.
Right.
No. What do you mean share with the group?
Share
Can
the
you
slide.
email it out?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Can't take a picture.
Before marketing, because I got to carry it.
I
right?
like-
No, this is great, but I really appreciate the PAB coming to our part of the county. I think that helps, especially as there are a lot of people that have, clearly we have transportation issues and people, so we want this to be accessible as possible. So having it in the district, and in, westernmost part of the district means a lot, and really appreciate of that extra effort. Hopefully a lot of people show up.
So one thing about the planning advisory board, we are asking for people to sign up in advance, and that's on the notice that will go out probably tomorrow. But the notice for this meeting is a couple pages long, so I just encourage everybody to read the details.
We don't want to send the notice out before we.
Yeah, we had to actually do, we had to do the work first, so now you can actually have a notice. Pass.
So do we, as the SAC, attend that PAB or yes?
We can attend and.
Yeah,
provide testimony.
it would be great for folks to attend.
So that's all I have.
Okay, great.
Group hug.
Yeah.
Closing comments.
So again,
Yes.
we have.
And hand out the citation.
Yeah, so we'll hand those out, but I just wanted to, closing remarks, it's, like I said, November of 2021. Didn't know how long this process would take. I know when I volunteered for it, I just wanted to be more involved in the community. Had an idea of what I was getting into, but didn't quite know. But more importantly, I think I've made some really great connections and hopefully friendships with all of you. I did this selfishly for my family. At the time, I only had one son. Little did I know that we were expecting, and when that first meeting in December, that my wife was already pregnant. We didn't know at the time. But I just wanted to thank everyone, especially staff, for all the great work you all have done, especially Mark. And Spencer, I gotta be your little one, which was really nice. And especially during, I had a very tough time with my daughter, and really appreciate Keisha, our vice chair, for stepping in when I had to take a step back while she was in the hospital. But you know, I think one of the biggest things is part of the reason, major reason why I did this is I still firmly believe that the western part of Arundel County often does get overlooked for resources. So part of my thing was I can't complain if I'm not a part of the solution. So, and I know Derek is nodding your head. So I mean, that's, I think, why a lot of us were involved, because we want to make sure that we're getting the same amount of resources that Annapolis and other Severna Park and other areas of the county that get resources first. So I look forward to seeing all these changes. I look forward to hopefully a new swimming pool, and some other regional parks and other things that we have. So we're not having to drive either to other counties or to other farther parts of the county to enjoy things. And of course, Chad, thank you as well for all of your help with the Fort Meade. It's incredible to see the amazing economic driver that is, you know, Fort Meade, and all the jobs in that. So hopefully we'll be able to make changes too, so we can alleviate all those, but really appreciate all of your expertise and your team's expertise as we've solved those problems. But to each of you, thank you for all of your expertise. And you know, you all knew your little regions and parts, and I think that's what kind of made us together. We are a very diverse group. And I think that really shows the beauty of this area. And I think we have a really great product to be, you know, proud of. And, you know, I will definitely ride this through, you know, till the council votes on it. But just thank you all again. I really appreciate your time and effort as we went through. I mean, it's hard to believe that when we first did this, we couldn't even meet in person. We had to do this all virtually. We're still in COVID. So, and we couldn't do, you know, we couldn't meet together. Yeah. So, I mean, it's nice to be all in one room and without masks and see each other. A lot has changed in this year and a half. So, you know, thank you all so much, and really looking forward to seeing where this goes in the future. So with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion. Yes, motion. Do I have a second? All right. So thank you all so much.